Hi, I'm Jim Stevens from Softion. In this week's Logistics Insights podcast, highlights from this year's annual 3PL study. We'll be back to discuss those in just a few seconds.
This podcast is brought to you by Softion, providing innovative solutions for warehouse management, warehouse execution, and distributed order management. Softion, delivering supply chain success every time.
The annual 3PL study was recently released as usual at the CSCMP Edge conference in Nashville, now in its 27th year. The report remains under the leadership of Dr. John Langley of Penn State University. The report is based on an email survey and focused interviews with shippers and 3PLs and 4PLs on a global basis, though a majority were from North American sources. Here are some of the key data points. The percent of total logistics expenditures directed to outsourcing rose a bit to 42%, after surprisingly falling to just 40% last year on an average, and compared to 53% the year before that. It's hard believing the drop was that sharp, but we now have a similar number for 2 years in a row. A likely reason for this drop in total outsourced logistics expenditures is a lack of full capacity in the supply chain, the report says. Domestic transportation management, again, came in as the most outsourced function at 69% of respondents, followed by freight forwarding at 60% and international transportation at 52%. An interesting chart in the report shows responses from shippers and 3PLs to a series of questions relative to their relationships. There are some different perceptions between the two groups, for sure. For example, almost all 3PLs, 89%, believe the percent of companies increasing outsourcing is rising, while a much lower 55% of shippers feel that way. Likewise, 92% of 3PL users say that 3PLs provide new and innovative ways to improve logistics effectiveness, versus a much lower 71% of shippers who believe 3PLs are providing that value. Always interesting is what the report calls IT gap. That gap refers to the percentage difference between how shippers place 3PL IT capabilities in terms of importance. Always very high, usually in the low 90s in terms of percentage, versus their view of actual 3PL IT capabilities, always a much lower score. For years, the IT gap was large but shrinking. However, for reasons that are unclear, it spiked back up 6 years ago and stayed there. This year, again, 94% of shippers believe 3PL IT capabilities are a very important factor in success, while only 54% are satisfied with those capabilities, down from 58% last year. Our view is that some 3PLs still try to get by with aging, often homegrown technology that is simply far out of date. There is some complexity here because if in the middle of a contract with a given shipper or multiple shippers, introducing new technology raises some issues. Even the shipper may not want to upset the apple cart. There is a lot more of this kind of information in the full report, available at 3plstudy.com. Softion has an outstanding solution set for 3PLs, including a warehouse management system built from the start to support multi-client 3PL environments, warehouse execution system, distributed order management, the industry's best 3PL billing module, and flexible client portal. You can learn more at Softion.com. For Softion, this is Jim Stevens. Thanks for listening.